if you're not affected by that song, then you gotta fucking have no heart.
There's a slight pretentiousness about it, which actually is pretentious in a good way.
När jag var liten så tyckte jag att det var en väldigt häftig text som inte jag förstod någonting av. Bara det var ju bra.
Some rock and roll is just great rock and roll. Some rock and roll is rubbish. And some rock and roll is great art.
I tell you what, it's absolutely fucking impossible to play. When you're there with an acoustic guitar go.
No, I mean, it's a fantastic song, of course it is.
Det är en av de fantastiska låtarna som handlar om... Som på sätt och vis inte handlar om någonting, och just därför så får man känslan av att den handlar om precis allt.
You can pick holes in most songs, you can pick holes in most pieces of music. There isn't anything wrong with Life on Mars. I've never heard anybody say they don't like it, ever.
It's their life on Mars.
Inspired, I think it was more revenge.
Tell us.
I mean, I wrote the song, I was with a music publishing company in the 60s, kind of trying to be a songwriter, not even a singer particularly, but I was quite happy to write them songs, and they would give these songs to different artists. That was the idea anyway. Nothing ever came of it. I think they got like 3 placed. And one of the things they gave me was this French song, and they said, do an English lyric to this. So I wrote this god-awful lyric. Even a fool learns to love, it was called. It's dreadful. God, it's so awful. Really embarrassingly bad. And I sang the lyric to the actual record that they sent me from France. So you hear the actual, there's a tape of me, you can hear, I've seen it on the internet, I mean, it's available. You hear the French song in the background, you hear me singing my lyric over the top of it, it's very funny.
They're funny man, don't let them down. Oh, I dance and prance and be their clown. That time, a happy time, that even a fool learns to love.
Yes, there were times I'm sure you knew.
The next time I heard it, it was My Way by Frank Sinatra. What happened to my lyric? Oh, I'm sorry, but it wasn't very good, so we got Paul Anka to do it. So I was really pissed off. I thought, oh, it should have been my song, you know? So I thought, okay, I'll write my own version. So it's My Way on Mars.
It's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair, but her mummy is yelling no, and her daddy has told her to go.
Can you actually recall something from the sessions when you recorded Live from Mars? This was 1971 or something.
Yeah, it was Hunky Dory, wasn't it? That was on. Those sessions seemed to me to be awfully... I know there were musicians on the album that I hadn't really worked with before, so I felt a little bit insecure about whether it was going to come out sounding the way I wanted it to. That's the only thing I remember. But it turned out okay, didn't it? Was it Wakeman on piano?
And then he phoned me up and said he wanted me to come round to his house. He wanted to play me some songs. and he had a beautiful house in a place called Beckenham, which is in Kent. And I was only just like a young 21-year-old session musician. I'd joined Straubs, and I was enjoying myself, but I lived in a tiny little house, so I arrived at this huge, great house. I remember going, like, looking at this place and walking in there, and it had an enormous hallway, and there was all the band's equipment and things were set up for a band. And David met me, and his little boy, Zoe, had just been born, and we went upstairs and had a wonderful grand piano. I can't remember the make, but I remember it was light brown, a very old grand piano. And we sat down in this room. He said, I want to play you some songs. And I said, okay. So, he said, I want to do this new album. And what's important with this album? He said, I've always come down from a guitar point of view. He said, I'd like to come to this album from a piano point of view. He said, so I want to play the songs on the guitar, and I want you to write how you would play them on a piano, and then I want to adapt around that. So I said, oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So he then got out this battered old 12-string guitar, and he started playing these songs. He played changes, and all these songs kept coming up one after the other that were just phenomenal. And then normally when you do an album, you get one or two good songs that you work on, and they were just getting better and better. And then he played Life on Mars, which was just probably the best song I'd ever heard.
Was it a hard one to record?
No. It was, working with David back then was always very easy. It's one of the best vocalists I've ever worked with. Like, almost every vocal he did was just one take all the way through. There was no having to patch it up or anything like that, or do lots of takes to decide which was the one. It was, he'd go out, he'd sing it, it was there.
But the film is a sad thing for she's lived it 10 times or more. She could spit in the eyes of fools if they ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go.
It was a great period. We were doing so much, and no one quite knew what to expect of it. This was, David had a moderate amount of success some time before with Space Oddity. Then there'd been nothing for ages, and it was a completely new situation. He was using musicians he hadn't used before. I'd worked with him on 2 albums before, but as an engineer, this was the first time we did the co-production. And so we were all feeling each other out.
We basically played the track live. And David sung live too. He came down. He redid the vocals later, but he sung, so it was actually recorded as if it was a band. It's always very easy to be retrospective and say, oh, it was fantastic sessions and it went really well. But the truth is, there were fantastic sessions.
Oh, I love it when the recorders come in. Their recorders are used so infrequently, and they just fit in so perfectly with everything else on this. Of course, nowadays that would all be done on a synth.
Yeah, but it's actually David was playing.
Yes.
She could spit in the eyes of fools if they ask her to focus
on. I do feel very proud of the Hunky Dory album because David allowed everybody to have more than just a part of being a session musician. Here's the song, play along. He allowed me freedom in how I wrote the piano part that went with it. And I always felt very honoured that you've got a great songwriter and a great recording artist like David who will trust somebody to produce their own part to go with one of his songs.
changes. Turn and face the strange changes. It's gonna have to be a different man. Time may change me, but I can't trace time.
I suppose there was a certain amount of disappointment because this didn't do very well at all when it first came out. And yeah, it was just okay. We did what we wanted to do, it was great, so other people don't get it, that's fine. And then Ziggy came out and I was completely blown away. I was just sitting in reception at Trident and Gus Dudgeon came up and said, congratulations. I said, what on? And he said, oh, Ziggy entered at number 7 this week, and bloody hell, absolutely blown away. So it then took that, and then they did another push on this again after Ziggy, and then it happened.
Yeah, because one funny thing is that the song wasn't released as a single until summer 1973, and by then
right?
you had released both Ziggy Stardust and Aladdin Sane. So how
You
come?
know better than me. I don't know.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Was it really?
Yeah.
Did it do anything?
Vi har här i tratten idag en så kallad promotionfilm med en av förgrundsfigurerna inom den här sminkpoppen, nämligen David Bowie. Och vi ska ta och titta på ett smakprov ur den filmen. På den filmen sjunger han Life on Mars.
It's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair, but her mummy is yelling no, and her daddy has told her to go, but her friend is nowhere to be seen. Now she walks through her sunken dream to the seat with the clearest view, and she's hooked to the silver screen. But the film is a sad thing for she's lived it 10 times or more. She could spit in the eyes of fools if they ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the long man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if you'll ever know who's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars?
I knew he was going to wear a blue suit, that was about it. I didn't really quite know how he would look. I thought, oh, we'll just put David on a white background and I'll play and see what happens. Because that's the way I used to do it. Just that's what you got. You got a few hours, get a cameraman in, couple of lights and shoot it. No big deal, not loads of people running around. No catering, I mean, someone call up, go out and get a few sandwiches. And we were off and running. And all it is David against a white background.
'Cause Lennon's on sale again. See the mice in their million hordes, from Ibiza to the Norfolk Broads. Rule Britannia is out of bounds, to my mother, my dog and clowns.
I mean, I suppose what amazes me about it is how, in its simplicity as well, and of course in the glory of the presence of David and the way he looks and presents himself, that it is a great reflection of the song. I don't think I realised at the time what a perfect reflection of that song it is. To have tried to do anything to contrive to illustrate it in some way would have, well, I suppose there's always different ways. There's a number of ways to skin a cat, as they say, but nevertheless, it exists as like a perfect thing, the song and the video.
I thought Mick Rock had some really quite radical ideas, you know, and I love the way he filmed that. It was so bizarre. I'd had no idea he was going to do that. He was going to burn everything out like that, and it was just remarkable. I mean, it's a strange piece of film, but it's quite beautiful in its own way.
Anyway, this was an era of when you could still be a renegade, you could still be an outlaw, you could still be an outsider. And I think we were very excited because we were getting reaction. And that was key. I mean, when you're young, you want to wind people up, and if it upset people a bit, fantastic, even better. I mean, the thing was to get a reaction. And David was very good at getting reactions from people.
Ready?
I remember being very proud of the whole Hunky Dory album, actually. I thought, well, this is really good. This is a good album. And you know something, I think the other interesting thing about that album, including that song, is that, again, they felt great to play on stage. They were such easy songs to work on stage. It was really a joy singing them. I enjoyed them. And I keep finding that I do go back to songs from that album to do on stage, even now. Things like Quicksand I've done, you know. Queen Bitch I've done. Andy Warhol even.
Andy Warhol looks a scream, hang him on my wall. Andy Warhol, silver screen, can't tell them apart at all.
I often wondered how he would surpass the Hunky Dory album and tracks like Life on Mars, and to some extent he never did. And he succeeded in still being successful by not making anything that ever sounded like... He's never made another album that's ever sounded like Hunky Dory, and he's never ever tried to write another track that sounds like Life on Mars. Yeah, clever boy.
But her friend is nowhere to be seen. Now she walks through her sunken dream to the seat with the clearest view, and she's hooked to the silver screen.
Well, I think that really that my subject matter hasn't really changed over the years. That I'm still in a way writing Life on Mars all these years later, you know, it hasn't. And The Man Who Sold the World. I mean, the way that I present songs has changed a lot, and the style for each album has changed considerably. I'll often try new rhythms and new kinds of arrangements. It's like I want to keep writing about the same subject, but my approach, it's like I'm trying to get into it, like finding a different door each time I approach that same subject.
And it's about alienation then?
A lot of it is, yeah, one's interior kind of isolation as well, you know? It doesn't just mean one's social isolation, it can mean, you know, how you get in contact with your own feelings, you know, as well. It can be quite personal in that way.
I would not be so presumptuous as to try and put any meaning on it, because certainly David Bowie never has, as far as I know. It doesn't, I don't know what it means, but it means a hell of a lot to me. It's like a poem by Rimbaud, say. What does it mean? Well, intellectually, it's very hard to define. You can only say, I love it.
But the film is a sad thing more, 'cause I wrote it 10 times or more. It's about to be writ again.
There are so many things that probably all just came together and made it what it was. David had to write it and had to perform it correctly. Rick Wakeman had to play the piano correctly. Ronno had to do everything. Woody, Trevor. I had to do everything correctly. These things either happen or they don't. And this one sure as hell did.
Best-selling show is the Life on Mars.
And of course, the surprise is always, which a lot of people miss this part. carries on at the end, and there's a phone ringing.